You want to give you all some time to jump on tonight. For those of you all that don't know, I am standing right now in front of where part of the Spanish-Mexican-American War happened. I am in San Antonio, Texas, live right now tonight. It doesn't matter wherever you look. This is no background screen. I wanted to come because there's some sentiment here. I want to give you all a little bit of background about while I'm here tonight. But I want you all, come on, jump on very quickly. Come on, let's have our evening Bible study. We are not in the sanctuary tonight, but I want y'all to jump on very quickly. Let's pick up. I want to kind of give you all context. Why in the world is Pastor John in San Antonio, Texas right now? What could be going on? Pastor John, you got to tell me tonight. Why are you in San Antonio? Tell him I'm in San Antonio. Where am I? What city am I in?
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Big Texas.
Thank you, brother. You heard that accent and all. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Why is Pastor John in San Antonio? And I want to tell you all about that. But there's also some revelations that I want to get into. So for those of you all that have been following with us, you all know that last week we were talking about suicide. This week, I promised you all we're going to be talking about depression, and we are. But before anything, the first thing that I want to make sure is do not go to sleep tonight with anger on your heart towards somebody that is still living. Somebody type that on the bottom very quickly. Do not go to sleep tonight with anger in your heart, especially towards somebody that is living and you have the authority and the capacity to being able to address those concerns. I'm going to say it one more time. Do not go to sleep tonight with anger on your heart without you addressing. And listen, the addressing is not for them. The closure is for you. Don't go to sleep tonight with anger on your heart, especially if it's somebody who you can pick up the phone and call. Especially if it's somebody who you can mend a relationship with. Don't go to sleep tonight unless it's somebody you can pick up and call. The second thing that I want to talk about, first thing is talking about that. Second thing is want to make sure that we pray for Minister Jason Bell right now. He tested positive. No, it did not happen at the church. There's not an outbreak at the church. But I want to make sure that the prayers of the righteous availeth much. So guess what? Who are the righteous? Come on, say it. Say, I am a part of the righteous crew. Therefore, I need you tonight. I need to endeavor and pull upon you. I want to make sure that you call up Minister Jason's name tonight for he tested positive. Everybody else, we're good. Linda, we're clear. My wife and I, we're clear. I even had Carson in quarantine. I said, any excuse to keep him out of my room. Bless me, God. But unfortunately, he came back clear too. So he started knocking on the bed last night. My gosh, Carson, give me some space, brother. Want to make sure we pray for that. Third thing is, while we're here tonight, while I'm in San Antonio, Texas right now, where the war happened, I'm here because I buried my father today. Buried my father today. Got word last night that he died. And you'll hear more about that this weekend at our church service. But I got word that he died. And so got word last night. And I took the first plane out this morning. I'll be back on the plane again tonight, heading back to Philadelphia. I flew into Newark. But I'm here tonight. And so, but the significance of what I'm sharing with that is because the burial plot that we were on, the significance about that veterans cemetery is that not only are people buried who fought in the war, but also the significance who fought in the war on the side of the Americans, but also there's a section in that cemetery. Hear me, church. Now listen, if during the Korean War, during Iraqi War, during World War II, I got all that. Persons who may have died over here, persons who may have died, not necessarily, but there are sections of those grounds, because we have dignity and because we still wanted to, we as a country, I'm saying now, that there's even a section, a burial ground for persons who even did not hold our values, did not respect our values, but because we respect them as a human being. Are y'all catching me right now? I'm saying that because when Jesus, he said, listen, there's two commandments that I leave with you all. The first one is I want you to love God. Then the second one is I want you to love people. We have to love people even. We have to respect people even. Come on, y'all can just finish the sentence tonight. Our charge from God is that even if they don't believe what we believe, even if they don't hold the same values that we hold, our job is to still love on them. Our job is to still respect them. Our job is to still make room for them and to honor them, even with dignity to their death. And I want to make sure that you're doing that tonight. That's the importance of why Jesus said, I want you to go a step beyond. You've heard it where people say, do unto others, I got you all that. But Jesus says, listen, don't get angry. Jesus also says, I need you to be intentional with peacemaking, not peacekeeping. Which is another reason why I'm here right now in San Antonio, that I'm glad that you all are on, because San Antonio also became the olive branch, if you will, and then also a safety net during the Spanish-Mexican War that was transpiring, that San Antonio was safe ground. In other words, that we need to find a place where we can be intentional with loving people who we know are backstabbing us, where we can be intentional with loving people who we know don't want to see us make it, where we can be intentional with still loving people and creating that olive branch. That's what God calls us to do. So I want to make sure that I hit those things tonight. So I'm in the middle of San Antonio because this is where that olive branch happened. So before you go to sleep tonight, I want you to make it a priority to say, listen, I have to establish that olive branch with your loved one. I have to establish that olive branch, because you never do know the day nor the hour when it will be the last time that you are with that loved one. I'm done. That was all I had wanted to hit. I wanted to make sure that you all know where I am, but also the significance of where we are right now with God, the significance of where God is taking us, the significance of the history that we have with God, and the privilege of us for where we are. So I'm grateful for being in San Antonio right now. Told y'all I'm going to be flying back, but I said, listen, we have Bible study. Still want to make sure that we're consistent, because God never drops the ball. Yes, I'm going to sleep. Yes, all day tomorrow. Yes, we have meetings, but yes, I land in and I got you all that. I'm going to rest. I'm going to shut down. Y'all know Fridays is usually my turn-off day, and that is. But I wanted to make sure that we prioritize our Bible study. So here's the thing. Now let's jump back over to where we were last week. And I want to just talk a little bit about finishing up with suicide. Y'all remember what we were talking about. And then for those of us that didn't get on, I gave you some specific illustrations of persons, because suicide is in the Bible. And we're wrestling with that right now, because I told you all that there was a gentleman who I had went to school with, and he had committed suicide. And so it tore me. And then I wanted to find and be intentional with addressing that in our scriptures. So there are examples in the Bible that I know that you all are familiar with, but I just want y'all to write these down. Put it in the chat for me very quickly. Stick with me. Come on. Stay with me right now. Come on. Stick with me. Stick with me right now. Because the example that I gave was there was a movie that had came out, and it was about a man who had an orientation. And he comes in the hospital because he comes in with a stroke, because he had been taking a medication that he was going to address about his orientation. The man who had an orientation, it was a sexual drive towards some inappropriate stuff. By admitting that that was an orientation, then people had opened up about, well, did that mean that he was born that way, or did that mean that he chose that way? It's a dangerous slope, whichever way you look at it. More to say, so the man is wrestling, and he knows this drive that he has is not good. Let me be also clear, because I don't want anyone to misinterpret. It was a sexual drive, and it's a movie that was out. It was a sexual drive towards children. And the man knew that it was not good. So he's taking medicine, and the medicine does not work. So then the man then attempts to even castrate himself so he can stop these urges, but he doesn't complete the job. And so then they find a way to try to complete the job for him through medicinal purposes and through surgery. And then this conversation, there's no discussion. So the man is upset, and he leaves out the hospital. They can't find a solution. He's upset. He tried to castrate himself. The medicine's not working. And so he decides he's at a bus stop ready to go home. And he walks out in front of that bus and he kills himself. There is something fundamentally wrong or fundamentally flawed in thinking that there can be a human condition for where there is no remedy for. I don't know if the good doctor and the writers, when they had wrote that, knew what they were opening up in that moment, because many people have been there wrestling. Many people have found themselves dealing. And of course, that example might not be the best, and it's terrible. But for those of us who know that even in that dark place that we may find ourselves in, that there is still a way out. Science may not offer that redemption, and there might not be any medication for that kind of turnaround, but that's where there's room for redemption, and then that's where there's room for a man named Jesus. But there's someone that can address that. So then I skipped a little bit, then I gave us some scriptures about persons who experience suicide in the Bible. And right now, Christians are asking the question, even today, will I go to hell if I commit suicide? Will therefore what will happen? And I think that I want to bring some closure to that, because I don't think that you will, but I also don't believe that you have the right or the authority to take your own self either. So it's not a question of heaven or hell. It's more so a question of, do you have the right or do you have the authority to commit suicide, especially if it's something that does not belong to you and it belongs to God? Remember, 1 Corinthians 6:20 says that we were bought with a price. So our official language is we are his by creation, but then we are also his by adoption. We are his because he created us, and then we are also his because he redeemed us. We are his because he spoke us into existence. I'm talking about y'all right now, about your very existence, your very being, of how God knows exactly who you are. We are his because he spoke us into existence, but we are also his because for our transgressions he was bruised. For our problems he went to the cross. Jesus purchased our transgressions. So anyway, that was last week. I gave you around some suicide examples. Write these down real quick if you have time. If not, first one I want y'all to write down is around 1 Samuel chapter 31. We talk about, just write 1 Samuel 31 and then put King Saul. 1 Samuel 31 and then put dash. I want y'all to put King Saul. 1 Samuel 31 dash King Saul. Then that was one example. He kills himself because he's being captured by David's men. King Saul does, and his pride could not handle the fact that he was no longer king, and so as a result, because he no longer had that position, he then killed himself. But then not only did he just kill himself, but then he also had an armor bearer. 1 Samuel chapter 31 verse 5. Come on, are y'all writing these down? Put these in the chat, please. Come on, quickly, put these in the chat. I'm giving you all some specific examples of persons in the Bible, biblically, So because the king himself killed himself, his armor bearer, because he lived his whole life through King Saul, he also took the sword to his heart as well. I want to also look at Judges chapter 9, Abimelech. Judges chapter 9. Um, he wouldn't accept the fact that he was about to be defeated from a woman. Wouldn't accept the fact. Come on, Judges chapter 9. Write these, please. Come on, come on. Come on. I need to see some typing, y'all. I need to see some I see you. I see you on YouTube. I got it. But come on. I need some. Y'all got to stick with me, y'all. Come on. We're giving some specific examples. I mean, people are right here out now wrestling with suicide right now. I told y'all the young man who I went to school with committed suicide. So this is happening right now. Judges chapter 9. Write that one down. Here's another example of suicide. 2 Samuel chapter 17. How about this one? The grandfather of Bathsheba was a good friend with David, and then one day he turned on David and took up Absalom's attack of David. But when David and David's army had won, he was so embarrassed. Come on. 2 Samuel chapter 17. Another one I want y'all to write down. Zimri, 1 Kings chapter 16. He was an evil king, lifted up pride. He tried to resign as a king, and Israel reigned over him. He could not handle that he lost, and so he killed himself. That's 1 Kings chapter 16. That's with Zimri. And then last and behold, come on, how about this last one? Y'all know this one. Y'all better wake up right now. Come on. Type this one in the bottom. It rhymes with 30 pieces of silver. Who am I talking about right now? Come on, who am I talking about? 30 pieces of silver. Come on. Y'all already know who I'm. 30 pieces of silver. Sold Jesus out. Y'all know this scripture. At least if you went to Vacation Bible School, you know this one right here. 30 pieces of silver. Come on. 30 pieces. Who am I talking about? Y'all said it. Talking about Judas. So there's suicide in the Bible, and in each case, the problem with suicide, though, is that everywhere you see suicide is that you also see a level of pride. How pride or shame got in the way. Pride and shame got in the way. But then not only did pride and shame get in the way, but pride and shame got in the way once it became exposed and other people saw how prideful you were. And then the mistake that exposed you, other people now saw that you weren't who you used to or who you weren't lived up to. And so as a result, that person then allowed pride to come in without apologizing, without accepting reality. And then that's when they fell down. But there's suicide. But it may not just be pride, but in each case, how many of us can relate tonight that it got that dark for you? Where it gets that dark, and I mean it's so heavy, when you even feel, even as a Christian, going to church every Sunday, where it gets that dark and it gets that heavy, where you don't even see the light of day. Am I preaching right now? Where I mean, you yourself, where it gets that dark. Some of us who know the dangers of even addiction and know what it feels like to say, on one hand, you don't want to do it anymore, but then on the other hand, you keep doing it. See, y'all not listening tonight. I'm serious. I'm only talking to real, or this might be you. Then you find yourself in bed, closing your eyes, and you're saying, God, I really can't do this anymore. So would you please? I'm too scared to do it myself. I'm only talking to real people right now. People that can be honest and say, you went to sleep because it got that dark, and say, Lord, if you don't mind, just let me go to sleep and not wake up so that it will be done. I mean, it's gotten that dark while you're a Christian, while you're still going to church, because you've carried so much weight. The Apostle Paul in the 7th chapter of Romans said that when I would do good, evil is always present. It seems like every time I try to go left, I end up going right. Or every time I go left, I end up going right. So he said, Lord, would you deliver me? I want out. And anybody knows that I'm talking right now, just at least type amen, please. Because if you know, but then what does the Bible say when it gets that dark and you have those suicidal thoughts? Some of us good, holy Christian people would, here it goes. Well, if you really love Jesus, if you really love Jesus, you'll never have, if you really love Jesus, right? Y'all know what I'm talking. But if you, then it'll never, no. You just keep living. And if you just keep learning, and if you keep putting your heart into it, then you'll know that every now and then you can still get to a place where it's the end of your rope. Every now and then you get to a place where you would say, I don't even know how I thought I got here. But yes, there's good news, right? That even if you open up your heart, open up your mind, that God is there to take care of you, give you another chance. I got that. But I think the first thing is when wrestling with suicidal thoughts is addressing your pride. Because oftentimes of these examples that we have in the Bible, remember even Judas, it was that shame. Judas just got 30, bro, you just got 30 pieces of silver, brother. But it was the shame that went with it. And the truth of the matter is, in every suicide in that Bible, those examples that I gave, there is a confluence or there's a consistency of pride, and there's a level of consistency with hopelessness. It's not just one moment in your life that this may have happened, but it was a time when your reality got pierced, and it's not when you started smelling your own self. When you start high, and then you end up falling too low. I've gotten there before. I've gotten there where where you were that high, man, I'm rolling, I'm going, and then somebody popped your bubble, popped your reality. Pride lifts you above, and then pride will make you start thinking that you're more than human. When pride lifts you above, and then when reality comes and attacks you in your face, you find yourself sinking into a place that you start thinking that, you know what, there is no way out of this. There's no way out of getting out of this. In each of these cases that we looked at, they had been elevated to think that they are more of themselves. And I think that we have to be reminded, that's why all of us are filthy as filthy rags. All of us find ourselves, that's why Jesus even makes it clear, well, who can get into the kingdom? Listen, bro, same way to get into this kingdom, the rich man got to go through the same way, the poor man has to go through the same way. No one is above, no one has high, no one has more faith, no one. Y'all got me still preaching. We did this last week. Come on, Chanel, tell them we got to move on. So pride will get in your way. Then another one is that your faith, real faith, the type of faith that believes that it's going to work out even when it doesn't look like it's going to work out. I'm not arguing that you believe in God. I'm arguing that real faith means you believe God. Seriously. Even if you don't have any evidence that God can do it, right? Honestly, even if you don't have any evidence that God can do it, my faith tells me that God is able. My faith tells me that God is not going to be done. My faith tells me that eyes have not seen. My faith tells me that. Faith at its core root goes beyond hope. God writes that, Derek Prince writes that hope is entertained in the mind, but faith springs from the heart. Dr. King said, faith is taking the first step when you can't see the staircase. That's the level of faith, yo. Even CJ, you just jumping on. Seriously, having that kind of faith. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the staircase. Not just talking about faith and believing in God, but also faith that believes God. Believing in God means I believe that God exists, but believing God says that I know he's going to do something about it while I'm here. Believing in God means that there is a theological truth to the existence of God, not arguing that, but believing God means that he's not going to just leave me down here while I'm in this right now. Believe in God, there's a deity, there's a theological existence, but then believe God. I believe in God, and I believe God for where we are. Psalm 27 had said, I had fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. David said, I had fainted, and I would have given up unless I believed to see. So some of us have a faith that has to see to believe. But David said, I don't need to see it to believe it. I need to believe it to see it. Type that on the bottom real quick. Let's do that one more time. Type that, please. Write that down. Let me say it one more time. I don't need to see it to believe it. I need to believe it in order to see it. I don't need to see it to believe it. I need to believe it in order to see it. Speak that over your minds right now. God, put me in a position. I don't need to see it to believe it. God, put me in a spot where I can believe it to see it. But then the last one, y'all, is the decision to take your own life is really not yours to make. Because you don't have all the facts. You haven't looked at the whole book. You don't have all the facts. You don't know what and I don't want to sound like, but you really don't know what tomorrow looks like. I mean, you got to have all the facts before you make a decision of suicide. I mean, I got to be able to make all the definitive facts. So in other words, sometimes in the past, I've made bad decisions, but that was because I didn't have all the facts. And sometimes you've made bad decisions in your life because you didn't have all the facts either. And so then to make a decision and it be the best decision, it can only be based if you have all the facts. And I think that while you're making the decision to take your own life, you're making it without some of the full facts. And the reason why there's some facts that you just can't have is because there leaves room for the faith category to trust in God. When you're thinking about what's going on and the facts that you have and what's happening, but then there's another set of facts that you got to have, that you can have. And you can have the facts of what happened, and you can tell us what's happening right now in your current situation. But then there's still has to be room that no human being can tell you what's going to happen. I promise y'all. You got the facts about what has happened. You have the facts about what is happening, but you don't have the facts of what's going to happen. You can tell me what you think might happen, but that's just not the fact. And since you don't have all the facts, then you can't make that kind of decision of suicide. We can't make that because we serve a God who comes in for the rest of that story. I told you about the successes or the successful suicides in the Bible. I gave y'all examples earlier about suicides that carried through, that happened. But can I tell y'all about some unsuccessful attempts? And the reason why they were unsuccessful is because God got in it. So here's one. Jeremiah chapter 20. Here's one for you. Jeremiah chapter 20. Somebody write that down, please. Jeremiah chapter 20. And y'all know this one. When he said, I wish I was never born. And at that moment, Jeremiah wanted to die. But then what happened? Come on. But then God showed up. And now listen, we know Jeremiah as saying, every morning new mercies I see. I got all that. And we can sell, I clear all that. But I want to point out to you that there was a time when Jeremiah said, it's in the Bible, y'all. I'm not making this up. No lie. Jeremiah said, I was never born. I think there might be some people who are in your family who know. It might not be you. I got it. You're good. But there's some other people who you know are saying, bro, how did I get in? I wish I was never born. And then Jeremiah got in. And then God shows up. Let's do another one. Y'all got Jeremiah? Are y'all with me? Is this thing frozen? Are y'all with me tonight? Let's do another one. I'm going to do another one very quickly. Let's do Jonah. Jonah decided he didn't like what God was doing in his life. And Jonah decided, I want to die. But God met him at his level of faith and raised up a gore to protect him from the sun. Y'all want me to say it one more time? Let's look at Jonah tonight. He said, listen, I'm done. I want to die. And God raised up a gore to protect him from the sun. Let's do another one. Why y'all still writing that one down? Only reason why God raised up that gore is because God will get in it with you. And he'll meet you in your despair. So here we go. Let's do another one. You remember the widow Zephora. She was broke. She had no money. And she said that, listen, that day, she and her son were going to die. I mean, I'm just serious. Y'all remember Zephora? I'm here now. So serious. But God sent in Elijah, and he raised up enough oil to fix that woman.